listeners. Welcome to the Music Festivals podcast. This is the show that helps you get to know music festivals, festival venues, and campgrounds before you go. I'm your host, Neighbor Nate, and I'm glad you're in the neighborhood. Welcome back, neighbors, to episode number 33 of the Music Festivals podcast. This is the show that helps you get to know music festivals, festival venues, and campgrounds before you go. And as always, I am your host, Neighbor Nate. And today is the official start of season number 3, which is crazy to me. I can't believe we're starting season 3. The weather's warming up in the Midwest, and we're now getting into festival season for the majority of the country, which I'm very, very excited about. And we have some great shows planned for you this season. You're not going to want to miss some of these because things are happening, right? So next week begins a series with All Good Presents. I had the chance to interview founder Tim Walder and his right-hand person, Janice Hurley, this week. So that episode will come out next Friday, but we're going to talk a lot about some of their festivals, some of which you're probably familiar with. So that's starting with Dark Star Jubilee, May 23rd through the 25th at Legend Valley in Thornville, Ohio. That's my backyard, as you know. And then we have the All Good Now Festival, which was formerly the All Good Festival, but it's been rebranded. That's happening June 14th through the 15th at the Merriweather Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland. And then the 4848 Festival happening July 17th through the 19th at Snowshoe Mountain Resort. So I'm very excited for the series we're going to do on those festivals. They're great events. And I should mention, and I'll mention this many, many times, but it was at last year's Dark Star Jubilee that I actually decided to start doing this podcast. So I have a lot of affinity for those festivals. Yesterday, I actually had the chance to talk with Jim Garibaldi, who produces the Everwild Music Festival, as well as managing bands like Acoustic Hookah and Tropodelic, two bands you should definitely check out. You know that I have a big soft spot for Acoustic Hookah. But there's going to be some upcoming coverage of Hookahville 60 that's actually happening June 5th through the 7th at Roost on the River in Newark, Ohio. That's a new venue that I'm not familiar with. I'll be out there next Monday with those guys just to take a look at the venue, do some drone footage of that. I'm also in talks with the folks at the Pickin' On Picnic. And so this is Ryan Kemp. He's the president and founder of the Pickin' On Festivals. They do the Pickin' On Picnic and the Pickin' Circle Bluegrass Festivals. And that's happening July 10th through the 13th at Lost Hill Lake in St. Clair, Missouri. So I'm very excited for what they're doing. That festival is actually celebrating its 10th year this year. And what I think is really unique about that one is that they support mental health awareness through an organization called Sweet Relief Musicians Fund. And this was initiated after the passing of Jeff Austin in 2019. So I'm very excited to dig into that festival and get to go on site and see that one. And there's more to come down at the Florida Sand Music Ranch. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the Sunshine Get Down, and that is Turner Seymour, who produces that festival with the Sunshine Music Festivals. He also does the Sunshine Hootenanny in the spring or in the fall. And I'm actually going to have a satellite team down there because it's getting to the point where I can't be at all these festivals. There's sometimes 3 to 4 festivals per weekend in the summer. And so we're going to have a satellite team down there that's going to be led by brother Nick, who is actually my brother and lives in Florida. And you met him briefly in some of the recent Whippersnap coverage because we were there together. My next trip, my own next personal trip, is going to happen April 11th through the 12th. And that's down at Camp Cosmic at the Caverns in Grundy County, Tennessee. So you've seen some stuff on that on the show. And I'm very excited about that one because that is Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country's Festival. So that's their named festival. And also playing at that is going to be one of my favorites, Mountain Grass Unit. And then also Water Tower featuring Willow Osborne, which are two artists that I am not familiar with, but very excited to see them play in the cave down at Camp Cosmic. And make sure that you tune in to the end of the episode. Once we get through all the regular stuff, the featured festival performance of the week is actually going to be from Mountain Grass Unit. That was at WinterWonderGrass 2025. And I had the chance to not only get the footage for that, but edit it up. And so that's my first time doing a video with a band. And I'm very excited to show you that because I think it turned out pretty good. But definitely want to give a shout out to Lindsay Thagard and Don Van Cleve of DVC Management for working with me on that. They were able to share the master track of audio, so it's really, really good sound for Hey Mama, which is one of my favorite songs. And they allowed me to, kind of run it on the MFP channel. So I'm very, very excited about that. With all that in mind, again, lots of festivals coming up this season. I want to put out an official call for contributors. So this is not something that I've done before, but all of you have cell phones, and I see you running around these festivals the same way I'm doing, taking video and capturing moments and whatnot. And I think that's really, really cool. And again, there's so many festivals to cover. So if you would like to be a contributor to Music Festivals podcast, I would love to hear from you. Go ahead and visit the website, musicfestivalspodcast.com/contact. That's the contact page. And there's a form on that contact page. And the very first option is to become an aspiring contributor to Music Festivals podcast. Go ahead and drop me a note there and let me know what location that you're in, because my goal here is to find folks spread all over the country so that we can cover more ground, so that we can get more documentation on how these festivals are going down, who's going to them, what bands are playing, things like that. So again, musicfestivalspodcast.com/contact. Let's definitely talk if you're interested, because I would like to establish a national network of contributors to this show who are just as passionate about music festivals as I am. But today we are recapping Winter Wondergrass 2025, and that was at Steamboat Springs, Colorado, February 27th through March 1st. And I was able to join the media team. So I want to give shout outs to Carly Speno and Sawyer Harris for letting me invade all of the stuff they were doing there, invade the media booth, get backstage. That was super cool. And I do want to give a special shout out to Bonfire's founder, Scotty Stoughton. I really like this guy's vision for his festivals, right? He does a great job on them, but everything's sustainable. And I think from talking with the crowd, and again, with Winter Wondergrass, it was very much a lot of Colorado folks. But with talking to the crowd, Scotty builds festivals that people come back to over and over and over again. And I experienced that at Renewal too. Renewal is also one that they do. So if you are not familiar with Bonfire, check out bonfireentertainment.com. They do River Wondergrass series, which is a series of events on rafts. That's super cool. They do the Renewal Festival. They do Baja Wondergrass, which is the summer festival. And then they do Winter Wondergrass as well. Hats off to you, Scotty, for really building a company that I think not only does great festivals, but it seems like everybody that works with you really buys into the mission and vision. And that takes a very, very strong leader. So I'm impressed by that. But let's go ahead and get into the recap. So starting with first things first, I'm in Ohio, and getting to Winter Wondergrass in Steamboat Springs is a travel trip across the country, right? So it's different if you're in Colorado and you can drive there or you're familiar with the area. But for me, it was a hell of a lot of travel to get there. And I think that there was a lot of lessons learned from that. So I flew from Columbus to Denver, Colorado, and then took a connecting flight from Denver to the Yampa Valley Regional Airport, or HDN, if you're looking up the airport code. And that is the quickest way to get to Winter Wondergrass. You can land in Denver and drive it, and it's about a 3-hour drive. But it was funny enough that as I was going to Whippersnap, I'm talking with Shane Levine, who used to live out there, and he said, no, you don't want to risk driving it. And because you never know what the mountains are going to do, it's peak season out there typically for snow in Colorado at that time. And so you might be trying to drive through the mountains and end up hitting a pass that you can't get through. So I went ahead and flew from Denver to Yampa Valley. It's about a 20 to 25 minute flight over the Rockies from Denver. It's beautiful. Yampa Valley is probably the smallest airport that I've ever been at. It's tiny. It's a city-owned airport. It's 3 miles northwest of Steamboat Springs, and it takes you about 20 to 25 minutes to get there from the airport in your ground transportation, but it's an easy drive. One thing I did appreciate at Yampa, and they're very, very used to having people bring in ski gear and snowboards, and guys like me who have literally 150 pounds of camera equipment coming with them, they had free luggage carts, right? So that was awesome. They're right in the terminal. So if you know that and you've got tons of gear, there's not a lot of them. And depending on how many people are on your flight, if you walk towards where the luggage racks are, make a hard right, and there's your free luggage cart. So definitely take advantage of that. Then when you're going to leave the airport, it's again, not a small airport, or a very, very small airport with not a lot of space to go with, but they have great transportation. So I ended up taking an Uber, which was about $30 to $35 to get from Yampa to Steamboat Springs to the hotel I was staying at, which was the Holiday Inn. You can also book buses there. So they have the Steamboat Springs Transit, which is about $2 to $5, and those run 4 times daily. And the schedules are available for those at steamboatsprings.net. So that is definitely the tourist website that you're going to want to bookmark if you are heading to Winter WinterWonderGrass. They also have shuttle services, and some of those companies are Storm Mountain Express, Steamboat Express, Ski Town Transportation. All of those require advanced reservations. So that's something that if you're planning a trip out there, you're coming from some other state, you definitely want to look that up. If that's an option for you, you can do that. And I know that I saw a lot of the artists. Actually, it was interesting walking into the artist. I turn around and there's Sam Bush with his family and half of his band standing there waiting on their luggage. Those guys actually had, private VIP limousine that was probably booked by the festival to the venue. But super nice to get to say hi to Sam and whatnot. You can also rent cars there. And so I do recommend that if you are going to rent a car, make sure you reserve it in advance, because again, for a weekend like WinterWonderGrass, there's tons of people coming in. Those things are going to evaporate well before the festival gets going. They have an Enterprise in Steamboat Springs, but again, if you wait until you get there, you're not going to get it. That was the mistake that I made. But reserve your car in advance, get it from the airport. That way you can drive it to the festival. You can drive it back from the festival. You can still take your transportation, in and around town once you get the Steamboat if you're drinking or whatever, and you don't feel like driving or trying to find a place to park. But it would have been nice if I had to do it again. I would have reserved a car in advance. I would have had that waiting for me at the airport. If I go back, that's what I'm going to do this time, was make sure that I'm well ahead of that. What was interesting is where I could have used that car. So on Thursday night after the dinner, and we'll get into that in a little bit, I actually went downtown because a rumor was floating around with some of the people that I talked to that Peter from Goose was actually playing a show at the Old Town Pub on Thursday night, which he was. Didn't know. I wish I would have booked tickets to that. I went down there. I wasn't able to get in because it was sold out and you had to have an advance ticket. So I stood outside a little bit and listened to Peter play. But that's kind of how cool Steamboat Springs is, right? Like the whole place brings in all these artists and they play there. And so that's one of the things I liked about WinterWonderGrass is it goes way outside Steamboat Resort. There's all kinds of stuff to do in Steamboat Springs, and there's great music there. Not the day after I left, Pigeons playing ping pong, who we talked to a few weeks back, was actually heading to play at Steamboat Springs. I missed them by a day, and I know they had a good show. I've been following that. One of the things to think about, going back to the airport, one of the things to think about is when you are flying out. So I'm one of those people that likes to get to airports really, really early, especially when I have a lot of junk to cart with me. The airport opens fairly early. I believe it opened at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock in terms of the doors opening. Not a soul in sight. None of the staff was there. Building was open. Security was there. No staff was there. So I ended up sitting in the line for about an hour watching the staff kind of come in and check in for the day and have their meetings and whatnot. But that's just something to be aware of. The first flights out of Yampa are typically around 11 o'clock. You're not going to get any staff there to do luggage and everything until about 10 a.m. Also be cautious that I will say that the signage is a little bit confusing in the airport. So I'm kind of a dumbass. I'd been up for, all hours of the night for 3 days. When I got there, I thought I saw a priority boarding line. And so I skipped that because for some reason I didn't do priority boarding on this flight. And I wasn't paying attention and sat in the wrong line for about an hour. And then once I got up there, they were like, "Oh, you're on Southwest. That's over there," which was where it said priority boarding. But that was actually the whole Southwest line. So just make sure that when you are coming home from Yampa that you really check that you're in the right line. Because I actually saw a few other people do that too. So the signage is a little bit confusing, but it's small enough that it doesn't cause you to run around. There is one cafeteria in the airport, and it has very, very limited seating. So once you get through the check-in process with TSA and everything else, there is a place to get food. There's a place to get some coffee. Food and the coffee was pretty good, but very, very crowded. So just be cautious of that as well. But then when you actually get back to Denver is a fantastic airport with lots of options and plenty of space and good internet and places to sit. So if you have to have a layover there, that's a super comfortable airport to fly to. Once you get from the airport to Steamboat Springs, for one, I'd never been there before. And when you look at it on a map, it doesn't look that big. Those maps are completely lying to you. The place is actually pretty big. It's fairly massive. The downtown area takes a few minutes to get through. I stayed at the Holiday Inn, which is by far the nicest Holiday Inn that I've ever stayed at. Really great food. They had a full bar with top shelf liquor, which was nice. You can go have a drink after you get home for the night and whatnot. But very, very nice hotel. I only booked there because by the time I booked, prices were just out of this world. I think I paid $400 a night to stay at the Holiday Inn. And if you're staying in Steamboat Resort, it's going to be way north of that. So that was a good option. It was about 1 mile from the actual Steamboat Resort and venue. So that meant that I had to figure out a way to get around. Again, did not have a car. The nice thing about Steamboat Springs, and you'll find this in all ski towns, is that they really do have great transportation because people need to get around. So your options are a free local bus service, and that is connecting Steamboat Springs to the ski area, and it's based on color-coded routes. So you're going to want to look for one of these, right? So here is your typical bus schedule for Steamboat Springs, and you're going to find these in all the gas stations, all the hotels, all the different places. This is the first thing that you need to grab if you want to do the buses, because it has the complete schedule. If you're coming out of a big city like New York City or something like that, that's going to be second nature to you. You're not going to have any problem. If you're coming out of an area that doesn't really have a bus system or you don't use it, then you want to spend a little bit of time getting familiar with that. But it's free. The buses run well. They're always on time, and it does a nice job. Service is typically every 10 minutes during peak hours, and this is free. This is free transportation. You don't have to buy a bus pass. It is nice to tip the drivers, even on the hotel shuttles. I tried to do that, but it is provided as free transportation for you. And what's nice is that if you are skiing or snowboarding, all of the public transportation, all of the shuttles have outside racks to put your board, put your skis in, and so you don't have to carry them inside of the actual transportation. The other thing that's nice is you can get on private shuttles, and again, Steamboat Express, Ski Town Transportation, and there's many others. So you can call ahead, you can reserve those, and there's various different packages for that. You don't need to, but it does give you a little bit more flexibility, especially after about 5 p.m., because most of the public transportation stops running at about 5 p.m. And so once you're into the evening hours, which you will be because there's a lot of events at the festival for that, you're going to want to look for a different mode of transportation. My mode of transportation was definitely the hotel shuttle at the Holiday Inn, which runs about every 10 minutes throughout the day. Super convenient, very friendly drivers. Had a really great experience on the hotel shuttles. Check this out. So one of the things you'll get used to here at Steamboat is that you have to shuttle around because it's actually a lot bigger than people think. But all the hotels have nice shuttles to and from the resort. I've been doing it for free on the Holiday Inn Express shuttle, which has been great. There's Uber here, but then there's also the red, blue, yellow, and green bus lines that run a little bit later. I think the shuttles from the hotels stop at about 5 o'clock, but the bus lines tend to run 8 to 9 o'clock, one of the locals was telling me last night. So definitely plan your travel. If you can rent a car, here's what I did that was a mistake. I didn't think about renting a car. I thought it would be walkable, and it's not. At least from where I'm at. So if you want to come here, especially for WinterWonderGrass, get a car early. Rent it from the airport, drive it all the way here, because when you get into town, all the cars are taken up. Especially when there's a festival in town, there's just a lot of people. So plan and have a car. Now the downside with that is you have to drive. So like if you're out drinking or whatever, you don't want to do that. Uber's great around here. People are running until 3 or 4 in the morning. But definitely think through your transportation because it's a big place. And for WinterWonderGrass in particular, there's all kinds of events in the town, in the bars, not just at the lodge. So you're going to have to be mobile. So yeah, plan for that. One of the things that was fairly surprising to me about Steamboat, again, this is the champagne powder capital of the world. And so I was expecting to get off the flight at Yampa and be freezing, and it be in the 20s. It was actually like 50 degrees and sunny, right? So this WinterWonderGrass was unseasonably warm. And I've talked to a lot of people. Again, this festival's in its 12th year. Everybody I was talking to who was a local, and there were some people who have been to all 12 versions of this thing, said that it was the warmest WinterWonderGrass on record. I don't expect that to happen next year. Maybe it will because of global warming. You never know. But it was in the 40s and 50s during the day. So when the sun goes down and that light's not hitting you, it immediately drops to the 20s and then goes south of that as the evening goes on. So I definitely would recommend that throughout your trip, bring a small backpack so that you can shed and add layers as needed. It's always a good idea to take that to a festival anyway, but definitely consider the weather in mind because you're going to want to drop that coat. You're going to want to drop the sweatshirt. There were folks, and you'll see this in some of the shots, but there were folks, in the middle of the afternoon without shirts on, dancing around, to the various bands by like 8 o'clock, everybody was huddled in sweatshirts and coats and hats and gloves and everything else. And then the other thing that's nice is the tents are heated. So if it gets too cold, and I did this for a couple sets, you can actually go stand in the gateway of the tent and it immediately raises up about 10 to 15 degrees. And that was super nice because you still want to stay there for the music, but if you're shivering while you're doing it, it's a little bit tough. The schedule at WinterWonderGrass is absolutely jam-packed. From Thursday, they do the pre-festival day, all the way through the end of the night Sunday and into the Grass After Dark series that they do. It is timed very well, but it moves very quickly. So with Thursday, that's your pre-festival day. The welcome show has free concerts in Steamboat Square, and there's actually a permanent stage in Steamboat Square that overlooks the gondola and the half pipe. They have a massive super pipe, which is really cool, and the mountain. It's a beautiful backdrop, but that is a permanent stage, and that happens from typically about 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. I was there a little bit late, so I did get to see Cousin Curtis. It was the only time that I saw Cousin Curtis. Very much enjoyed Cousin Curtis. We'll be following what they're doing going forward. But really nice venue. There's also what's nice too, if you're bringing the kids, that Thursday pre-festival day, you can watch the shows in the afternoon. And again, those are free shows. They're open to anybody at the resort. To the right of that stage, if you're facing the stage, there is a really nice ice rink with a lot of people ice skating. So if you just want to sit down, have a drink, watch the show, do some ice skating, it's a really great afternoon to do that. And you're also right there. So you can pick up your festival badges. You can pick up your ski passes from the actual Steamboat Resort, because you'll have to go there to get the ski pass if you're going to ski. But everything's super convenient. There's all kinds of places to get food, beverages, extra gear if you forgot, a hat or gloves, or you need to, get your board serviced or whatever that is. But that's a great place. And then Thursday night, they also have the mountaintop dinner. And so around, I believe it was 6:30 p.m., you start to get in line for the gondola. At this point, they've shut the ski mountain down, but they're still running the gondola because that takes you up to the Thunderhead Lodge, which is about close to the top of the mountain, but there's still a little ways to go up from there. But I was able to attend the dinner, and that was wonderful.
All right, so I'm trying not to be a complete dork and do video in the middle of this thing, but we've been at the opening dinner, which is Thursday. It was an extra fee to come to this. Wonderful meal. Had buffalo, had chicken, had all kinds of fixins, really good Brussels sprouts. There's a bar up here. We're at the top of the mountain right now. And tonight we got to see Lindsay Lou and Kyle Tuttle and Torin from the Kitchen Dwellers do a set of just kind of making stuff up as they went along. And it was wonderful. It was so wonderful. And Lindsay's very pregnant, and that's super cool because the baby was kicking while she was playing. I don't know. Anytime I see somebody have a family, I think that's super cool. But what an amazing, intimate, cool way to kick off the conference. Top of the mountain, small crowd, really close to the stage, private show, and great food and drinks. Yeah, this is cool. Unlike anything I've ever been to, unlike any other opening party at a festival. Super unique at WinterWonderGrass how they do this. But everybody I talked to also said this is their favorite part of the festival. So if you come to WinterWonderGrass, get there early while the tickets are still available. Spend the money and come to the Thursday night dinner, because not only will you see great performances and have good food, you get to meet a bunch of people. It's a really cool crowd up there. Yeah, worth the money.
I really enjoyed that. And I do want to give special shout out and congrats to Lindsay and Kyle. So they have a baby arriving. Baby Bart is arriving, I think very soon, because Lindsay looked super pregnant. And it was funny because every now and then she would stop in the middle of the set and look at Kyle and be like, yeah, he's jumping around right now. And I enjoy, when you see families starting to happen and stuff like that. So shout outs to those guys. Congratulations to you, Kyle, Lindsay. That's awesome. Excited to see the announcement of baby Bart when he comes. Friday through Sunday, again, jam-packed schedule that starts all the way in the morning. So you have morning workshops that are held at the Steamboat Grand Hotel, and that's hosted by Coltrane Music Academy. And if you go to Renewal, you'll see Coltrane have a very big presence there. I don't know a ton about Coltrane, but I want to find out more about them because I am a huge fan of any organization that is really stewarding bluegrass and other forms of music into the next generation, because that's what's going to keep us all entertained, for years and years to come. We're going to find those next phenoms that come up from things like that, from going to festivals and then getting involved with organizations like Coltrane. So they have both workshops for kids and adults. And there's also public picks that happen early morning, and those are typically from about 12 to 1. And these are free public jam sessions that happen in and around the Steamboat Grand Hotel. And what you'll find is guys like Vince Herman from Leftover Salmon joining those picks, as well as a lot of the other artists. And so that would be a great experience. I did not get to do that this time. I had too much gear to carry. I could not bring a mandolin or a guitar, and probably wouldn't have been able to keep up anyway. But if you are a player and you can keep up with that stuff, definitely check out the public picks, because that's your shot to actually jam with some of the people that you're going to see later. I thought that was really cool. Your main stage performances start around 2 p.m. each day, and those are going to go to about 10:30, 11-ish at night. I do believe there's a noise issue that they have to shut down the big outdoor music at a certain time, but it's going to be solid music all day long. So literally, like when the main stage was over, you hear there's 3 tents, and you'll see this in the venue footage. There's 3 tents that are all 3 different stages. So main stage stops, and as soon as main stage stops, the 3 tents fire up and that music's happening. And they play for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then as soon as those tents stop, the main stage fires up. So it is just continuous music. And I do have to give hats off to a lot of the bands that were playing there, because I think some bands probably did 3 to 5 different shows through that weekend. So they're earning their money, they're hustling, they're playing hard. But it was really, especially in the tents too. My only complaint with the tents is that it can be hard to see. If you don't get there early enough, you're in the back and the stages aren't up high, right? It's risen off the ground, but it's not high enough. So you may not be able to actually see the show, but the sound was great. So if you do have a band in a tent that you really want to see, be willing to walk away from the main stage early and get there to get a place up front, because by the time that set is over on the main stage, it is going to be jam-packed in each one of those tents. And then after the main stage performances are over, the last one of the night, they move everything into the Grass After Dark series. And so these are special performances. You do have to buy an extra ticket, and they're going to be very, very close to the resort. So they're going to be at some type of a establishment within the resort. I think there was a few actually downtown Steamboat. But these are going to bring some of the bands that have already done main stage performances, or will do that the next day, to a more intimate venue. It's going to be inside. I actually got to go and see Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country in one of the hotel ballrooms. It was a fantastic show. It went till about 1:32 in the morning. Vince Herman got up and sat in with them from Leftover Salmon. That was entertaining as hell. But definitely, if you're going to spend the money to go to this festival, at least go to 1 or 2 of the Grass After Dark shows, because they were great. And you're already spending a lot to go to this festival anyway, mostly with the travel. The festival prices aren't bad. It's the travel that really gets you. So make the most out of your experience and check out Grass After Dark. It was worth the staying up late and going to that shows. I think the thing that makes WinterWonderGrass incredibly unique is that it is a ski festival, right? I've never been to a ski festival. Most of the festivals I go to are at campgrounds, and you have your typical trailers and tents and Tent City and Shakedown Street and what like that. There's no Shakedown Street at WinterWonderGrass. But you can go skiing, and they encourage you to go skiing in the morning. So a lot of people were getting up and hitting the slopes at about, 9:30. I don't know the exact open time, but the conditions were great. And so if you're going to ski, it's a really great place to ski. Steamboat is known normally for the light, fluffy snow, the powder that's referred to as champagne powder. There was absolutely none of that this year. It was very much Bluebird Day, spring conditions for the duration that I was there. The day I left, they were actually getting a snowstorm. So I have a friend named Steve who's going out. He was going to be there a day after I was, and he got some of the powder. As a snowboarder of 25 years, I could tell you that, man, I wish they would have had some powder, because the paths through the woods and things like that just look like they would have been a blast with fresh powder. So if you're a powder fan, definitely make sure you go to this and bring your skis or your board. But again, this year was warm, so no powder, but still really nice conditions. One thing I noticed is that I expected it to be a little slushy. It got up to 45, 50 degrees during the day. So again, bring that backpack so you can shed layers. not slushy at all. Everything's really dry up there, and it was easy riding, right? The snow was soft. It loosened up in the sun, but it wasn't wet. Really, really easy on the legs. It was wonderful. And you can ride the gondola. So the main steamboat gondola takes you up to the Thunderhead Lodge and drops you off there, or a little bit above the Thunderhead Lodge. And then you can actually ski down to the Thunder Lodge. But they have kind of paths for everybody. So green, blue, black, double black. And that's nice if you want to let the kids go on their own, but you don't want them taking the blacks. If you are an expert and you want to hit the good stuff, check out the wild blue gondola because that provides easy access to the summit and is going to take you to a lot of the double blacks and things like that. And then again, at the very bottom of the mountain, they have a massive super pipe. I do believe that I've seen X Games there once or twice in the past. But that is something that if you are a snowboarder or a skier and you want to hit the pipe, we don't have those in Ohio, right? But super cool. And I saw little kids going on it, right? So you don't have to do big tricks, but it was a lot of fun to check that out. February through early March is typically prime snowfall months for Steamboat, according to the research that I've done. Again, this was kind of a different year, but as far as I can tell, the average is about 65 inches between February, in the month of February, and then about 46 inches of snow in the month of March. So you can expect next year, and the dates are already out for next year's WinterWonderGrass, that they will probably have powder again. So be prepared for that. And then finally, I would be remiss to not run through some of the festival performances that I got to see at this. There was just an amazing amount of talented musicians there, and they really do a great job of not only selecting the bands to play and really mixing it up. Again, very heavy leaning towards bluegrass. They did have California Honey Drops there that was not anywhere close to bluegrass. That was a nice break, but they really do bring a great mix of musicians across the bluegrass genre, from newgrass to more traditional. So I just have to mention some of them. I think honestly, I was one of the people that most impressed me at the entire festival was Kyle Tuttle. I have always been a fan of Molly Tuttle and the Golden Highway. Kyle is Molly's sister, or Molly's brother, and oftentimes I almost feel like maybe Kyle gets overshadowed by Molly, because Molly's a phenom, and Molly's fantastic, and I love the way that she plays and the way that she sings. But Kyle's no joke. That dude plays a banjo with anybody. He is an incredible banjo player, super personal dude. And sat in with just about everybody. So his skill to be able to sit in with so many people and just pick it up and play with them and really do amazing performances. I am now a huge Kyle Tuttle fan, even on his own. So I'll be following a lot more of his projects as well. I really enjoyed seeing Kitchen Dwellers, right? So I had known of Kitchen Dwellers. I've been listening to them, but this was the first time I got to see Kitchen Dwellers live, and what a show that was. It was incredible. Sam Bushman also played, and that one I've seen Sam probably 4 or 5 different times, mostly down at the Caverns when he's played there for K-Fest and things like that. But he happened to just play a lot of my favorite, Sam Bush songs. So I was really enthralled by that. But again, they're a hell of a show. Like watching Sam on stage, his energy and the way the band plays, very, very entertaining. Leftover Salmon also killed their set. I mean, just an amazing set, and they've been around for so long, and they just always keep it fresh. So I was very impressed with Leftover Salmon. I got to see Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country twice. So once on the main stage, and again, once at the Grass After Dark. Both performances were stellar. And these guys, they're just exploding right now, and for good reason. It is a hell of a show. Yeah, they just keep growing and growing, and then you get Daniel on this solo, and it's unbelievable what he does on guitar. So definitely enjoyed that. Another one of my favorite bands, and I learned about him through WinterWonderGrass. You saw the interview with Dan Andre, but I got to catch the Fretliners 3 times at the festival. I'd never seen them live. I didn't know about them until I interviewed Dan, and then I started following them on Spotify and things like that. Not only do they hustle, they probably played more than anybody else at the festival, but just incredible music. And Dan, I do send this out to you. Since the festival, I now wake up with some of your songs in my head in the morning, and I'm like, why is this in my head? But they're sticky songs, right? They write really good songs that almost sound like they were written decades ago, right? They have that old feel to them. And then special mention too, Dan himself. I got to catch the show on the top of the mountain on Sunday. Sunday. Beautiful day, sunny bluebird day. Took the lift up, skied down to the actual Thunderhead Lodge where they were playing outside. Pretty big crowd there. And about two-thirds through the set, Dan ripped this fiddle solo that was something else, and the crowd goes nuts. And I mean, you can tell when a musician takes everything inside of them, their body, their mind, their soul, and puts it into the music and puts it into the instrument. And that's exactly what Dan Andre did. So hats off to the Fretliners. I think that they're going to take off like a rocket ship in the next year or two. I'm so impressed with what they're doing, as well as Sister Sadie. I got to see Sister Sadie in one of the tents. And again, the crowd just goes nuts, and their vocal harmonies. I will say this about Sister Sadie. I've never heard a band that blends so well or has such tight harmonies as Sister Sadie. Truly impressive. So if you're not familiar with the ladies in Sister Sadie, check them out. Such a great band. I'm excited to see, where else they go in 2025. I was also incredibly impressed with Damn Tall Buildings. Again, didn't know about them, never saw them before. Almost a very theatrical performance, right? Like I got close enough that I actually could see them on stage. And again, this is a trio of folks. The vocals, again, super, super tight, but just as entertaining to watch as to listen to. I really dug what they did. So definitely check out Damn Tall Buildings. And I had seen another one that I was super impressed, who's also very theatrical, was Pixie and the Partygrass Boys. And I caught their main stage set. And it was about late afternoon. So it's in that time period of the day where, especially on day 3, everybody's kind of tired and everybody's like still invested, but the energy goes down a little bit. And they came on the stage. And by the end of that set, people were literally jumping up and down. Katya Racine, Pixie, she's a ball of energy and an amazing vocalist. So I very much enjoyed their set. And again, I see them just taking off. And then one of my very personal favorites, and I'll leave you guys with this video at the end, was Mountain Grass Unit. To see these guys, I've seen them play a couple different times. I saw them at Renewal. I'll get to see them again at Camp Cosmic, so I'm super excited about that. But yeah, super personal guys. I happened to be backstage, caught them, and they were kind enough to take a picture with me. I try not to be a fanboy, but I've really totally been into these guys since I saw them at Renewal. So if you're not familiar with Mountain Grass Unit, definitely check them out. Those guys, they have the same it factor that Billy has. At least that's what I think. And maybe people will debate me on that. But it's above the music. They play well. Their vocals are well. They're super fun to watch, but then they just have this extra layer where you're just hooked on them. So check out Mountain Grass Unit. But all in all, the entire lineup of the festival, and not only the lineup, but the sequence of it, like how they had the bands perform, the days they had the bands perform, the back and forth between the main stage and the tents, just so impressive, right? It's expensive to go to this festival, but you absolutely are going to get your money's worth. So if you can only afford to do it once, make the investment, because you're not going to be disappointed. There's no way that anybody leaves WinterWonderGrass and goes, I wish I wouldn't have come, or I wish I wouldn't have spent the money. Absolutely worth it. That's it, folks. That's all we have time for this week. I, for one, will be going back to WinterWonderGrass. Again, it's one of the most unique festivals that I've ever been to. And while it's incredibly bougie and it's very expensive for travel and lodging and accommodations, especially for folks outside of Colorado, it is absolutely worth the investment. So save the money, make it happen, do it at least once. And again, hat tip to Scotty Stoughton, who is the visionary behind the entire Wondergrass series of festivals. I really like what he and his team are doing, the culture, the vibe they create at these events, the experience they create at these events. These are top-notch festivals. And so you have WinterWonderGrass, you have Renewal, you have River Wondergrass to check out, and you have Baja Wondergrass to check out. And all of them they kind of follow the same vibe that Scotty creates. And the other thing I'll say is that not only were the attendees very, very happy at this festival, but working alongside the Bonfire staff and the contractors they had and the volunteers they had, so were they. Everybody really buys into this guy's vision. So hats off to you, Scotty. Pretty cool. If you want to learn more about those festivals, check out bonfireentertainment.com. All the details are there. All of them are in Colorado or on the West Coast. Baja's in California, but definitely worth the trip. And I'll leave you with this too. If you're coming from out of state, the first day I was a little bit overwhelmed. I've never been to this festival. I know my way around ski resorts, but I've never been to a festival at a ski resort. Just talk to people. A lot of the attendees are Colorado folks who are very familiar with the area, have been there multiple times, some of them to all of them. Everybody's super nice and willing to help you out and show you around and show you the ropes. There was none of that. This is my festival and kind of guarded. Everybody was super helpful. I really like the vibe in Colorado. Someday, folks, I'll actually be your neighbor out there because that's where I want to live someday. So yeah, thanks for that. And it was good to meet all of the folks that I was able to meet. Just some housekeeping items before I let you go. If you follow the show, you know that we have a lot of drawings that we do ticket giveaways for festivals, and these are going on right now. So to get your chance to enter to win those tickets, head over to musicfestivalspodcast.com and sign up for the neighborhood. That is our email newsletter that we do at least once a week. Might do occasional special offers more than that. We won't spam you. But again, musicfestivalspodcast.com. Leave your email in the box. It's right on the homepage. I think I asked you a question about what's your favorite festival, and I get really interesting responses to that. I enjoy reading those. But contests we have going on. So we have Sunshine Get Down coming up April 10th through the 12th, 2025. That's down at Florida Sand Ranch. If you watch the show, you're super familiar with that venue right now. I love that venue. Cave Jam is coming up May 24th through the 25th, and that's at the Caverns in Grundy County, Tennessee. Incarceration Music and Tattoo Festival, and that's July 18th through the 20th at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. That is like it says, a tattoo and a metal festival. Super cool. And coming very, very soon, we're going to have Hookahville 60 tickets. That is coming June 5th through the 7th at Roost on the River in Newark, Ohio. So Hookah heads, I'm looking at all of you. Hope to see you enter that drawing as well. Subscribers who join the neighborhood also get access to discount codes from our partners for deals on very cool products and software. And I use all of this stuff. I'm not going to give you anything that I'm not tapping into myself. Those are outdoorsy.com, Inikim Scooters, Melted Mind Designs, my favorite tie-dye apparel company, Cast Magic, that does AI transcription software if you're a content creator, CapCut video editing, Opus Clip, and Hoem gimbals. If you are one of those people that runs around with a cell phone taking videos at festival, you need to get yourself a Hoem gimbal because it's going to make a huge difference in how you're able to shoot and what you're able to do. But thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate all of you. We are now over 6,000 people who are checking this podcast out so far, and I'm delighted with that. And I'm glad all of you are kind of on this festival adventure or midlife crisis, if you will, with me. So thanks for that. If that is you, if you are somebody who likes the show, please take a few moments and do me a solid and rate it on wherever you're listening to it or watching it, or just leave some comments on YouTube. I like to know that people are out there. But that is all I have for you this week. As always, I am Neighbor Nate, and I hope to be your neighbor at the next festival very, very soon. Oh, yeah. And I almost forgot. Without further ado, here's Mountain Grass Unit at WinterWonderGrass with Hey Mama.
Hey mama, help me understand I'm healing. Revive me from the happiness I'm stealing. Hold me close as I go. Hold me close as I go. Nobody's effort claims to be my own. Walked out the crowded street once all alone. Hold me close as I go. Hold me close as I go. Cold to know, not knowing where the line divides the road. Am I here abandoned or just damned cause I'm alone? I've learned not to listen to some familiar ways. I'm hoping for tomorrow and praying on today. Hey Father, here's the hand that you are feeding. This painted glass don't teach the faith I'm needing. Hold me Bye.